I saw your name up.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Javier Garcia with the Hospital Association of Southern California. Our legislature enacted MICRA, the Medical Injury Compensation Reform Act, in an effort to control the escalating costs associated with malpractice insurance. Currently, the cap for non-economic damages is capped at $250,000. I'm curious to know what your position is on that.
All right, let's go Tricia, then Anchor, then Jesse.
So generally, there are, when you have a case, I think there are multiple types of damages that can be awarded at the same time. So the fact that there's a cap on one doesn't preclude there being more awarded in the others. So I understand, having, and it's been quite some time since I worked for law firms, but having worked for law firms, I do recall I worked for a personal injury one for a little while, and I remember seeing a sheet that would come out every day that would talk about the various awards that had been provided in various cases. And while I would never diminish anyone's loss or anyone's suffering for a particular incident that occurred to them, there are times where I saw awards that were quite large, and quite large in $1993, $92. So I can see why there would be a need for a cap on some things, particularly when you consider folks who operate in a slightly different space, like Planned Parenthood, for example, and the services that they provide. Given that there's the ability for there to be larger awards for other things, I don't have an issue with the cap.
Hard to put a cap on human life or damages that may happen because of somebody else's incompetence or medical malpractice, but this is the thing that the point is, it drives up the cost to provide care. So it's a difficult balance in terms of what we're valuing, and so I'm not for a cap. I think that's a position that I take on that particular position. But I also think that the universal healthcare model that we're looking at can try and address some of these things in terms of making it easier for healthcare professionals to provide care and then not be held for damages if they're doing good work. And that's obviously a contradiction right there. Not obviously, but there is some contradiction in there in terms of trying to provide care and then not be held for damages when you try to do work that benefits somebody. But overall, I'm against the cap because I don't think you can put a value on somebody's health and the damage that happen because of that.
So I've heard from a lot of healthcare providers here in the Valley, from folks who are doing good work in our community, from Planned Parenthood and others who support the current cap. I support it as well. I think that we are, you've seen some efforts in the state legislature in recent years. We also had a ballot proposition on this issue. Both times, both the legislature and the voters have rejected changing the cap. And given all the changes that are going on in our healthcare system right now, and with the challenges that we have to delivery of healthcare, I don't think now is a good time to start tinkering with that and further, upsetting the market for healthcare. So I support the current cap.
Any other audience questions? Back there.
Hi, my name is Ariana Oliva. I'm a public policy specialist with Channel 360. And so my question is, according to a poll conducted by Choose Children, 7 in 10 California voters cite early childhood education as a high priority for them. So if you were elected to represent Assembly District 45, how would you increase the availability of affordable and quality early childhood education programs for more working and middle-class families?
Let's go Anchor, Jesse, and then Tricia.
Right, it's an important priority. LAUSD as a school district has been trying to address this in different ways. There's state preschools, there's a PALS program, preschool for all learners, trying to get 3-year-olds who may have certain kinds of learning differences early on. So there is a concerted effort to open these facilities and programs up at LAUSD. It's a funding issue. We need to have more resources for these kinds of programs, and I think that's been an ongoing issue and a priority, not just for the current governor, but future governors have talked about it. But expanding these programs and using the existing public facilities, public school education facilities that are trying to do it is a great way to open up and provide these services that are necessary, that have so many long-term investment benefits in terms of it takes a little bit longer than, say, adult education, but the benefits are undeniable, and we need to be investing in early education in whatever form makes sense for our local school district.
So I do think this is an extremely important and timely issue. So much of the science I've read about brain development is that so much is happening in the first couple of years, and that the opportunities that we have to give children a head start are enormous, and that the return on investment that we would get as a state from doing so is very significant. I know other states like Vermont have moved to universal preschool. I'll just speak loudly if you can hear me. We've seen other states. Hello? Okay. I'll speak into the microphone again. We've seen other states that have made strides on this. I think it is a priority, as Ankur has said, for folks up in Sacramento and for some of the gubernatorial candidates. I would welcome the opportunity to sit with you to understand what we could do to expand access to early education. And I think it's important for two reasons. I think it's important to give kids the opportunities that they need, especially for folks who may come from a home where they haven't had the opportunities to be read to or be educated by their parents. And second, it's an important economic issue, especially in families like mine where both parents work. And childcare is an important part of making the budget balance. So I think there's a lot for the state to be gained from it. I'd love to have the opportunity to talk with you about what we can do.
Okay. Sorry, Tricia, go ahead.
The first line of defense in terms of homelessness, crime, poverty, so many other things is education. And so I'm absolutely in support of funding early child care, early child education. It gives kids, it actually acts as an equalizer in some respects, because I'm sure you've heard the statistic in the city of Los Angeles that depending on your zip code, your length of life can actually be 12 years less. That's due to health, due to crime, due to all sorts of other concerns. And I really do feel that this is one of those things that would allow our kids to have more access to education and to do better overall, which means that they'll do better, they'll have better jobs, which means that they'll have more revenues, and there'll be more taxes to the state, there'll be a bigger slice of the pie for us too. You can see how the cycle just cycles up and gets better and better. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we're at the time now for closing statements, so 1 minute each, and let's go the reverse of what we did to start. So we'll start with Jesse, and then Tricia, and then close with Ankur.
Thank you, Kobe, and thank you to Vika and everyone for the opportunity to be here. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope to have the opportunity to continue it. I'll say when folks in the community, when this seat opened up and folks started to reach out to me and encourage me to throw my hat in the ring, I was initially very resistant because we have two really young children. We have a 5-month-old and our other son is 2.5. But I got enough phone calls that my wife said, you gotta go sit and talk to people and you gotta figure out what this is about. And so I went and I sat with Zev Yaroslavsky and some of the other folks who've served our community very ably, and they all really encouraged me to do it. And they said the state is at a really important moment, the country is at a really important moment, we need new people in office, we need people with a lot of energy in office, and you should think about this really seriously. And I think for too long, our valley has not gotten the good representation that we deserve. We deserve a Sacramento that's going to be more responsive, that's going to think about the needs of the valley, that's going to prioritize the valley. And if I have the opportunity to take this job, I promise that I'm going to show up, that I'm going to listen, that I'm going to work hard, and do everything I can to improve the quality of life for everyone around this table. Thank you.
Also, thank you for being here this afternoon and listening to us. I am very, very pleased to be here at this moment. Part of the reason why I'm here is because I kept opening up my ballot over the almost 30 years I've had to vote, and I did not see women on a regular basis. I did not see people of color. I did not see people from different backgrounds on the ballot. And I realized at some point, if not me, then who? If I'm not willing to step up, why should I be expecting others to do it? So when my council member, Bob Blumenfield, and Andra Hoffman both reached out to me to run for this seat, I had already been through the Emerge program, and I was ready. I've been working in these communities for 5 years, both in the private and public sector. I've been living in these communities for over 30 years, and I am pretty sure I'm probably going to die in these communities. And so I will be working on behalf of all of us as part of Team Blumenfield, so bringing it from the state back to the local level to make sure that we have what we need.
My father actually ran for Congress when I was 11 years old. I thought I was going to live in the White House. My mother gave up her job to raise me and my younger brothers to pay it forward. I don't have kids. I am single. I am in this full-time to be the best representative that this district deserves. The diversity is something that I understand, have grown up with, and can represent, not just in ethnicity, but from progressive to conservative, from I think it's an intergenerational struggle that we are in, and we need somebody in the state assembly that is independent. I was registered as an independent until this race. So I'm kind of coming from an outside perspective, really trying to be from the community, represent the people here that I have grown up with, from not just in education or in healthcare. I actually worked as a union organizer at Kaiser Permanente, Woodland Hills, or in the environment, dealing with so many different issues with Food and Water Watch and Sierra Club and other environmental organizations. So I have this broad, diverse experience across the issues that are important to this community. I'm dedicated, as are the other candidates in this, but I am in a unique position to represent this district and the diversity in a powerful way that we need at this time. My name is Ankur Patel. Please vote for me for Assembly District 45. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so as everyone who attends VICA events on a regular basis, you know that we always end on time. So